It's funny when you think about like Sputnik moments, right? Like these huge shifts in tech. Most folks, they think back in 1957, the Soviets launching that satellite. But I gotta say, I think we're living through one right now. And it ain't about rockets. It's about AI. It's about this Chinese company called DeepSeek
Yeah.
that's been turning the whole industry upside down.
DeepSeek is really fascinating. They're not just, I mean, everyone's trying to build better AI, but DeepSeek, they're approaching it almost like from a completely different angle.
So when I was prepping for this deep dive, I'll be honest, I kind of thought this was going to be, another startup makes good story. But the deeper I went, like looking at all these articles, Wikipedia, even just the buzz on social media, it's way bigger than that.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's a whole different playbook. And
Yeah.
honestly,
It's kind of refreshing.
yeah, okay, so let's unpack this whole thing. First off, who is DeepSeek? Like, where'd they come from?
Right. So it all starts with their founder, right? Liang Wenfeng. Now, this guy, he's not your typical Silicon Valley, tech bro. He comes from finance, co-founded this hedge fund, High Flyer Capital. So like Wall Street, not Sand Hill Road.
Exactly. And you can tell he's got that strategist mindset. He's looking at AI not just as like the next big thing, but the thing, like the thing that reshapes the world.
So this isn't just about, making a quick buck. This is like grand vision stuff.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And the way DeepSeek's funded proves it. It's all coming from his hedge fund. No VCs, no outside pressure.
Interesting. So no need to like chase the latest trend or worry about quarterly earnings?
Nope. It's all about the long game, which is
Okay.
pretty rare, especially in the tech world these days.
Okay, I'm going to play devil advocate here for a sec. Does that actually work, though? Like, can you really just ignore short-term gains and pour everything into R&D? Doesn't seem sustainable.
You'd think so, right? But DeepSeek's kind of proving that wrong. And it's because of their team. They've got this group of like super young, crazy talented grads from China's top universities. And the culture there is intense. They move fast, they break things, they iterate like crazy.
So they're not afraid to experiment, to take risks that maybe a bigger, more established company wouldn't.
Exactly. It's like they've got this hunger, this drive to prove themselves.
Okay, so that's the backdrop. But how did they actually burst onto the scene? Like, what was their we've arrived moment?
So their first big move, November 2023, they released DeepSeek Coder, their first AI model. And get this, they made it open source.
Whoa, hold on. Open source. That's not the norm, especially for a company that wants to, dominate the market.
Right. It was a huge gamble. A direct shot across the bow of the big guys, like Google, OpenAI. All those companies hoarding their secret sauce.
So they're basically saying, we're not playing by your rules.
Yep. And it worked. People took notice, DeepSeek Coder.
Yeah.
It was impressive. But it was just the beginning.
Okay, so what came next? How did they follow that up?
So May 2024, they released DeepSeek V2. Now, the performance was good. Really good. But the price, that's what blew everyone away.
It was cheaper.
Way cheaper, like shockingly low. It triggered a whole price war among Chinese AI companies. The big guys, they were ready for that.
So they're playing hardball, undercutting everyone. But how can they afford to do that? I mean, doesn't developing cutting-edge AI cost a fortune?
That's the thing. Their secret weapon isn't just pricing, it's efficiency. They've figured out how to train their AI using way less computing power, which means way lower costs.
Wait, so they're outperforming the giants?
I saw it.
Spending less? How is that even possible?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Right.
And the answer lies in their tech question. 3 key innovations. And that's where things get really interesting.
All right, lay it on me. What are these innovations that make them so efficient?
Okay, so first up, reinforcement learning, or RL. Now, most AI companies, they train their models with huge amounts of data.
Right.
Like tons of pictures labeled cat, so the AI learns to recognize a cat.
Right, the classic, show it a million pictures and eventually it gets it.
Exactly. But DeepSeek, they're taking a different approach. They're using RL, which is more about, well, imagine you're teaching a dog a trick.
Okay, yeah. You
Yeah.
don't just, show the dog a diagram of how to fetch.
Exactly. You give it rewards when it does the right thing. So DeepSeek, they're doing something similar. They're using these algorithms like PPO and Q learning to train their models, to figure stuff out on their own through trial and error. And they get rewarded when they succeed.
So it's less about force-feeding the AI information and more about letting it kind of learn by doing, like a kid playing a video game or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a huge part of their efficiency because training AI the traditional way, it's super expensive. You need all that labeled data, people to do the labeling. It's a whole thing.
But with RL, They're basically cutting out the middleman.
Pretty much. The AI is generating its own training data as it goes. It's pretty wild.
Okay, that's innovation number one.
Yeah.
Like, what's next?
All right, so the second one is called mixture of experts architecture.
Catchy?
Yeah, it's a mouthful. But the idea is pretty simple. Think about your own brain for a second. It's like a team of specialists.
Right.
You got your language expert, your math whiz, your whatever you're good at.
And you don't need all of them firing at once all the time.
Exactly. You only need the right expert for the job. And that's what DeepSeek's doing with their AI. Instead of one giant model that tries to do everything, they have all these smaller, specialized expert models. And only the relevant ones get activated for a specific task.
So it's like having a brain surgeon who's also a concert pianist, but only one of those skills is on at any given time.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And it's so much more efficient than the traditional approach of just building bigger and bigger models.
It was what everyone else seems to be doing.
Right. It's like an arms race for who has the most computing power.
Yeah.
But DeepSeek, they're showing that you can achieve amazing results by being smart about how you use your resources.
It's the money ball of AI.
I like that. Yeah, it's about finding those hidden gems, those efficiencies that everyone else is missing.
Okay, so 2 down, 1 to go. What's the third innovation?
All right, this one's a little more technical, but it's called MultiHead latent attention. And it's all about helping the AI see connections in data that others might miss.
So it's like giving the AI super-powered reading comprehension.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it.
Yeah.
It's like if you were reading a text and you could focus on multiple parts of it at the same time, picking up on all these subtle relationships between words and phrases.
That's pretty impressive. But how does that actually play out in, real-world AI stuff?
Think about something like language translation. A good translator doesn't just translate word for word.
Right.
They understand the context, the nuances, the overall meaning.
You're like reading between the lines.
Exactly. And that's what DeepSeek's multi-head latent attention lets their AI do. It can analyze data from multiple angles, see those hidden patterns and connections. That's a big part of why they can train their models so efficiently.
They're basically getting more bang for their buck, data-wise.
Exactly. They're squeezing every ounce of value out of the information they have.
Okay, so if DeepSeek's figured out how to do all this, why isn't everyone else doing it?
Well, it's not that simple. I mean, DeepSeek's innovations are definitely shaking things up, and other companies are scrambling to catch up. But it's not just about copying the techniques. It's about a fundamental shift in mindset. For years, the focus has been on bigger is better, more data, more computing power.
But DeepSeek's proving that's not always the best approach.
Right, they're showing that efficiency, clever algorithms, that can be just as powerful, if not more so.
And there's another bonus. Right, less computing power means less energy consumption.
Exactly. So DeepSeek's not just disrupting the market, they're potentially doing it in a way that's better for the planet.
Okay, so they're efficient, they're innovative, they're eco-friendly. It all sounds pretty great, but I know there's got to be a catch.
Right.
What are some of the challenges DeepSeek's facing?
Oh, yeah. There are definitely some hurdles, and some of them are pretty big. For one thing, they're caught in the middle of this whole global tech war. Even with their focus on efficiency, they still need those cutting-edge chips to train their models.
And those are mostly made in the US.
Bingo. And with all the export restrictions going on, it's a tough spot for DeepSeek. They're trying to diversify their supply chain, partnering with companies like AMD, but it's a constant struggle.
So it's not just a tech race, it's a geopolitical one too.
Exactly. And then there's the whole issue of, market perception. Can DeepSeek, a relatively new company with roots in China, can they build the same kind of trust as the big names?
Yeah, brand reputation is huge, especially when you're dealing with something as powerful as AI.
Right. And then there's the fact that, at least for now, DeepSeek doesn't seem to have any clear plans for commercialization.
Yeah.
They're all about the research, which is great, but at some point they're going to need to figure out how to turn those breakthroughs into, actual products and services.
It's a high-risk, high-reward strategy. They could revolutionize the industry or they could just fizzle out.
Yeah, it's a gamble for sure. And then there's the big one. The thing you can't really ignore when talking about Chinese tech companies? Censorship.
Right. DeepSeek's models, they're subject to the rules of the Chinese government, which has a very different approach to information control than a lot of other countries.
Yeah, it's a huge ethical dilemma. Censorship can stifle innovation, limit freedom of expression. It creates a whole bunch of problems.
So it's not just a technical issue, it's a philosophical one too.
Definitely. And it raises a big question for anyone thinking about using DeepSeek's technology. Can you really trust an AI that's been trained under a censored regime? What kind of biases might be baked in?
Those are some heavy questions.
Yeah. And then finally, there's the issue of data security and privacy, storing user data on servers in China. It raises a lot of red flags, especially with all the concerns about government access and lack of transparency.
It's like the whole TikTok situation all over again.
Exactly. But with AI, the stakes are even higher because AI systems, they're data hungry. They need massive amounts of information to function. And the more data they have access to, the more powerful they become.
So there's this tension between DeepSeek's incredible potential and the very real concerns about where they're coming from and how they operate.
It's a tough one. It's like, do the ends justify the means? Can we embrace the benefits of their technology while ignoring the ethical and geopolitical baggage?
It's a classic dilemma, and I don't think there are any easy answers. Okay, so where do we go from here? I mean, we've covered a lot of ground. DeepSeek's tech, their strategy, the whole ethical and geopolitical landscape. What's the big takeaway for someone like me or anyone listening trying to wrap their head around this AI revolution?
Well, I think the main thing is this. DeepSeek is a wake-up call. It's showing us that the future of AI is going to be way more complex and unpredictable than we thought.
I'll admit, when I first started looking into this, I thought it was just another, startup success story. But it's so much more than that.
Right. It's like DeepSeek's ripped a hole in the way we thought about AI. And now we're all trying to figure out what comes next.
Yeah, it's like they've changed the rules of the game, and everyone else is scrambling to catch up.
Exactly. For a long time, we all assumed that the big players, like Google, OpenAI, they'd be the ones calling the shots.
Right. It was like the AI world had its established order.
But now DeepSeek comes along, operating under a completely different set of rules and achieving these incredible results. It's exciting, but also a little bit nerve-wracking.
Yeah, it's like we're seeing the potential for AI to be truly disruptive in a way that we haven't really seen before.
And that disruption isn't always going to be pretty. It's going to be messy, unpredictable. It's going to force us to confront some uncomfortable truths about how things work, how power is distributed, who benefits from these technologies.
So what does this mean for the average person? Should we be excited about DeepSeek? Worried? Both?
Honestly, I think it's a mix of both. On the one hand, they're pushing the boundaries of what's possible with AI, making it more efficient, more accessible, potentially even more sustainable. And that's a good thing.
Right. Imagine a world where the power of AI isn't just limited to a few big companies or governments, but it's available to everyone.
That's the potential upside. But we also have to remember that AI isn't just some neutral tool. It's shaped by the values of the people who create it, the political context, the intentions of those who use it.
And that's where things get tricky, especially with DeepSeek. We can't just ignore the fact that they're operating under a government that, well, doesn't exactly have the best track record when it comes to freedom of information.
It's a huge issue.
Yeah.
And it raises some really important questions, like how do we harness the power of AI while making sure it's used responsibly, ethically, in a way that benefits everyone?
Those are tough questions, and I don't think there are any easy answers.
Nope. But the fact that DeepSeek is forcing us to ask these questions, that's a good thing. It means we're starting to have the right conversations.
So what can we do? I mean, I'm just one person. What impact can I really have on the direction of AI?
Don't underestimate yourself. The more people understand about AI, the more we can demand transparency and accountability from the companies and governments developing it.
So it's about staying informed, asking tough questions, not being afraid to challenge a status quo.
Exactly. And it's about remembering that AI isn't just a technical issue. It's a societal one. It's about who we are, what we value, and what kind of future we want to build.
Well said. I think that's a great place to leave it. Our deep dive into the world of DeepSeek, it's been a wild ride. From algorithms to geopolitics, we've covered a lot.
And we've only scratched the surface. DeepSeek is just one part of this much bigger story.
Yeah.
The AI revolution is just getting started.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what happens next. Thanks for joining me on this journey, and to everyone listening, stay curious, stay informed, and keep asking those big questions. The future of AI depends on it.